Hey everybody, this is Steve.
And Stomachfoot here.
Yeah, and today we're going to take a look at this nice colorful wall behind us. Yay.
But it's not actually a wall, it's actually this printer. This ultra compact printer, which prints out concrete into this hole. So now I'm going to make a creeper in the printing, the chest. And now I'm going to start this print.
Yeah, so as you see, the piston worm will start moving and we will get the first blocks getting dropped into right here. And yeah, let's just wait for that. There we go. And this thing will take it with it, and this nice 1.12 block will get transformed into concrete and then get pushed right here into the printing system. And yeah, the next block should come quite soon. There we go.
The next block is a tactical block incoming.
And there, it's getting transported with the worm.
It's getting transported and it's going to get dropped in here.
Yeah, now it's getting watered. Like this, really nice. Yeah, we're now going to take a little time lapse of this thing printing. So as you see, the printer is almost finished and it's now going to push in the last block in a couple seconds. Yeah. And as you see, and probably hear, it stopped all the background activities and now the print is finished.
And so after the print is done, the blocks will go from the sorter into this chest, this trap chest over here. Where they're all stored. But actually no, they don't go in after the print is done. They go in while it's printing. Like each block goes through the sorter and then ends up over here.
Yeah, and now we're going to take a look at the redstone behind it, because it's actually quite compact.
So the first thing I'm going to explain is the hopper system and how the items go from the chest into the sorter. So the way that the first item is let into the sorter is through this monostable, which is attached to the button, because when you press the button, it'll activate this monostable with all these observers and stuff. The monostable will pulse twice, which lets an item out of the chest and into the sorter. And the reason it needs to pulse twice is that when the thing pulses, it will let one item into the chest and it'll get stuck there. And the second pulse is to get the item out of the... Actually, no, into the hopper, and then it'll get stuck there. And the second pulse is to let it out of the hopper and into the system. But these additional pulses, like the pulses that are activated by this, which I'm going to explain now, are only needed to be single pulses because there's already an item there to be let in. So, anyway, how this part works is there's this monostable here by, well, it's actually part of the smart piston and water thing. And it sends this pulse through here, under here, around here, and over here into this hopper. And yeah, that's pretty much all for this part. Now I'm going to explain how the items go out of the sorter and into this trap chest over here. So when an item goes through the sorter, it'll go into these chests and into these dispensers from there. It'll go into these chests and then a hopper line. And this line over here is the overflow. And the reason I have chests here is because there are torches down here which wouldn't let items through the hoppers. So I'll go through here and into this smart dispenser, which will push all of these items up, and into this hopper line over here. They'll go down and into the trapped chest.
Okay, so for the water mechanism, for the concrete powder and the block smart piston system, it's quite a complicated system actually, because we didn't have space to put a water source next to the smart piston, and that brought us to the problem that you can't let concrete drop through water because it will get to solid concrete. And for that we actually made the water source inside a dispenser. So if I place the concrete, it will get watered by the dispenser and then pushed out by this smart piston system. As you just saw, the system is really slow, but it doesn't matter because we have to wait for the next block to come in anyways. And yeah, there is some quite interesting stuff going on right here, because this piston right here made some serious issues, because it is right down here. And around this piston, there are a lot of wall blocks, and due to the fact that here is the dispenser, we didn't have any space to power it, because here's the output from the observer, which detects if concrete drops in here. And to get around this problem, I actually made this system right here, using the dispenser. And when the dispenser gets powered, it will actually butt activate this piston right here. And so the first thing that happens if concrete drops in here is the observer will pulse this piston. And this will update this piston, which isn't getting powered anymore. So it realizes I'm not powered anymore, and it will retract like this. And then a little bit later, if this piston retracts again, the dispenser will take away the water again. And in that moment, I will power this piston through the dispenser. And in exactly that moment, this piston will retract again. And it will pulse this piston again, which will update this piston, which is getting powered through the dispenser then. I know this is really complicated now, but it seemed like the simplest way to do that. Yeah, and the way I power this stuff right here is quite simple. I just push this redstone block, which activates this. It's like a latch which turns on, and then it goes through this monostable, activates a pulse lengthener, which activates this piston right here. And this piston will interact with the input system to update this piston. And I have this system which repulses the dispenser, and then I have this piston which resets everything. And yeah, I'm now going to show you that again. As you see, this piston here will update a couple times now. There we go, first update. And second update. And as you see, this dispenser was still powered now. Okay, so the smart piston is actually quite complicated, because we didn't have much space for this line of pistons, because we didn't have space right here to power these the blocks, and we didn't have space to add an observer either, because it would need redstone on this block right here, on this layer. And the problem with that is that to make it one wide, you need a butted piston. And another problem we had is, like, here is the wall of the printer, so we didn't have much space there either. So the way we did it is we butt power this piston right here using this cauldron through this comparator. And then we detect the piston powering with this observer right here and this observer, and this updates this observer, and this line, and then the pulse travels up here, travels through this observer, and this observer will generate a one tick for these pistons, and this observer will move the cauldron out of the way, which will unpower that. And yeah, it will be in a moment, so this piston updates this piston again while pulsing, so it resets again, and that will then look like this. Yeah, and that's basically how we did the smart piston thingy.
Okay, so now I'm going to explain this piston worm and the redstone behind the piston worm. So the piston worm is this worm. It's two bidirectional worms linked to a slime block, so they push it back and forth. So it's quite basic, and the slime block is here to push any of these sand blocks over here into the smart piston and the water and stuff. So now the redstone behind it, there's a clock over here, which is controlled by this. It's essentially controlled by the button. It's hooked up to an RS NOR latch, which is hooked up to the button and the observer piston thing. The automatic off button, basically. So how the clock works is it's very basic. It's a simple clock which has a piston to move a block in and out of it, which activates it and deactivates it. I don't really need to explain it, it's just very simple. And the reason I didn't use a comparator clock is because if I used a comparator clock, I would have to add a repeater and it would make it too slow. Complications, basically. But the interesting thing about this is I used the line from the worm to power these dispensers to move the items up into the hopper system. So there's the line here, it goes into this repeater here, and it's basically just a clock, and it activates all of these dispensers, which pushes the items up.
So basically the reset system is quite simple, because like the blocks just get pushed up here, and then the block will be in front of this observer right here, and this observer will give one tick pulse into this concrete wall right here, and then this piston right here will pulse, pushing this block forwards right here or back again, which doesn't really matter because it just has to update this observer right here, which will give a pulse up here, which doesn't matter as well because this observer will detect this observer updating, and then it will give out a pulse right here through this repeater, through this block, into this piston right here, which will push all of these blocks down here. And down here, this observer will give a pulse into this redstone, pulsing this piston, which will push all these blocks back. And then this will reset the flip-flop right here, with the NOR latch right here. And then this will deactivate all the running clocks in this system. Yeah, but that's pretty much all there is to it for today's video. So thank you for watching, everybody. This has been innocraft and Stomachfoot, and we're going to see you in our next video.
See ya!